Well, Razorback fans, I made some headlines with a lot of you because of something I said on TexAgs when dealing with Sam Pittman and how he could keep his job beyond next season. Let me clarify some things here on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday and staying dry out there. I know storms have come through and a lot of places in the state of Arkansas. I'm about ready for these storms and this weather to stop. It's looking like it could be a little bit dicey this weekend for Razorback baseball against Texas. But still, we're going to have some things to discuss and things to talk about. We'll get into actually, it's going to be all football here in this podcast today because we have some news dealing with an addition as well as somebody who you were hoping to be added into the mix. But unfortunately for Razorback fans, that will not be the case. But we'll get into that here in just a little bit. But I wanted to kind of clarify something that I talked about recently. And that was when I went on the TexAgs show just yesterday with David Nuno. Really appreciate him having me on. It's always fun to catch up with him and catch up with people there and TexAgs. You know, it's funny. I really hate Texas A&M, but I really like the Texas A&M media guys down there. They're really good people. So I went on that show and they were just asking me about Arkansas and about the football team and about where things stand, all those deals. And, you know, I basically said a lot of things on there that you have probably heard me say on this podcast specifically. It's just, you know, kind of how it goes. I don't really change my mind on anything. But one of the things I said when dealing with this upcoming season is that I was asked about Sam Pittman and Arkansas. And if they go 6-6 this year, you know, is that kind of what will be great, or will that be a satisfying year, or what will that mean for Sam Pittman if he goes to 6-6? And my response was, if he goes 6-6, considering this schedule and considering the team that he has, then he needs to stay another year because that's going to be such a long shot. Is essentially what I said, and people were really fired up by that and saying, "Wow, so you're saying that if Sam Pittman goes 6-6 again and has a 6-6 year?" 3 out of the last 4 seasons, with one of those seasons being a 4-8 year, you think he should just stay? Well, I want to clarify. I said that with a little bit tongue-in-cheek because I just feel like it's that difficult. It's going to be that difficult of a year for Arkansas to where if they do get to 6-6, it'll be completely and totally outside of what my expectations were during the season, or at least even going into the season. I would just be so shocked that they were able to pull that off. And again, not just because of the team and how I feel like Arkansas, it's not that Arkansas is just going to be this terrible team or anything like that. It's more about how the schedule sets up and how difficult it is and everything. So when I was saying all of that, I was just referring to the fact that it's going to be an extremely difficult thing to do. But if it was able to get done, then Sam Pittman does deserve a lot of credit, a lot of praise, and it could really be beneficial to him. I'm not saying he would come back another year. I'm not even saying it would make sense for him to come back another year, but it would be one of the best jobs that he's done as an Arkansas head coach, in my opinion. But also, not all 6-6 seasons are created equal. Not all of them are the same. And let me explain it to you. If, and it's a big if, Arkansas was to go 6-6, look at the most likely scenario as far as wins and losses on who they beat and who they lose to that would get them to that mark. I think Alabama A&M, Arkansas State, and Memphis would have to be wins. If you're going to get 6-6, you have to win those 3. It's not out of the realm of possibility because I don't think you're going to beat Notre Dame, to be honest. So you get there. And then you go on to the conference slate. You got to get 3 wins out of that. Out of the 8 games, you got to get 3. Well, I'm telling you right now, I'm not feeling good about any of the 4 road games whatsoever. At Tennessee, at Texas, at LSU, at Ole Miss. Not saying it's impossible to win any of those, but I'm not going to bank on it. It's not something I'm going to bet on. So, not doing that. So, where's it come from? Well, it comes from home games. The home games you have, Texas A&M, finally, at home. Mississippi State, Auburn, and Missouri. To get to those 3 wins out of that, you have to beat Mississippi State and you have to beat Auburn. I think those are possible wins you could make happen. A&M, I don't feel very good about, but at the same time, if you feel good about Missouri, anytime you feel good about them, they always beat you anyways. So, like, how can you really feel good about that game when you haven't won very many at all? But the same thing goes for Texas A&M. You haven't won that game very often at all. But do you see what I'm saying? Even to get to the 6-6 mark, realistically speaking, you're going to have to win a game that you shouldn't. Win a game when you're an underdog, which is essentially what you did last year to get 6-6 when you beat Tennessee at home. It was that type of game. But if you just did that and say, we'll throw in a Missouri game in there. Say you finally get that monkey off your back and you win that game. Is that 6-6 record? Is that record going to incite an excitement and a feeling of greatness when it comes to the future of the program and momentum building and all of that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's not going to be that way. But if you're able to throw in where you win some of those basic games, but you throw in a win against Texas on the road, or if you throw in a win against LSU down in Baton Rouge, or maybe Tennessee in Knoxville, or maybe Notre Dame at home. If you throw in one of those wins into the mix, it changes the entire feeling of what that 6-6 season could be. It makes it to where it's suddenly a little bit different. Sorry, my back's killing me on this. My neck's bothering me. I don't know why. It always happens when I start recording my podcast for some reason. But it would be different if it was a 6-6 year when you had those wins and you had ones that you could build on, ones you could be excited about, ones you could, I'm not saying you'd rush the field again, but ones to where you would feel that sense of accomplishment. One of the bigger upsets you get talked about all the time on SportsCenter and everything. And to me, I feel like that's really what saved Sam Pittman's job this past season. But as someone brought up too, with that, I'm like, so say if Sam Pittman does that and goes 6-6. 6-6 wasn't bad enough this past season to fire him. So would 6-6 with next year's schedule, which is much more difficult, next year's team, which is a lot less talented, that team to go 6-6, you're really going to fire him after that? I mean, I was one of those that felt like Arkansas should have moved on in a different direction, but I mean, how are you going to make sense out of that? Now, we didn't want to fire him after, winning 6 games with a better team and an easier schedule. But when he won 6 games with a much more difficult schedule and a not as good team, that's when we decided we had to just cut our losses and move on. That wouldn't really make any sense. But it would have to happen. It wouldn't make sense, but it would have to happen. My point is like, I know where Arkansas stands. You know where Arkansas stands in football side of things. We know that it's a difficult time right now. It's nothing to where you're pumped and excited, but you're also not completely and totally shutting down your excitement for Razorback football. You even put a poll question up on Twitter yesterday asking what's it going to take for all of you that are not excited about football, what's it going to take for you to get excited about football in the offseason? And I had a few options out there. But one of the options I had just like is other and list. And the people that were in the comments were just saying, oh, what if you fire Pittman? If you get rid of Pittman? But the thing is overwhelmingly that other list vote did not win. Overwhelmingly, the majority of you said you'll get excited once the season arrives. That's when you'll start getting pumped up. Is once the season comes around, you will get excited. And that was all I needed to hear. Because I feel like that's how most of us will be. You'll start to hear some stuff. We'll start to see some stuff. We'll start to feel good about anything and everything that we hear out of camp. Once that first game happens and Arkansas beats Alabama A&M 70-0, then people are like, man, maybe it's going to happen that way. It just always is. But my whole point in all of this is just to say that, do I think if Arkansas goes 6-6 this year, am I going to be crowing and starting the chant that gets Sam Pittman to return for another year? No. Do I think Sam Pittman should come back for another year if that happens? No. But it'll be hard for me, knowing the circumstances and knowing what this athletic director as well as what the program in general have as an expectation, to find the consistency in their rationale and in their thinking where they would fire him after this next season going 6-6, but not after this previous season. That was my whole point. So relax, okay? Relax. We had some news with a big player out of the state of Arkansas. People are really fed up and fired up and all of that stuff, but I may not think it's that big of a deal. But we'll talk about that here in a bit, so stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, you ever check into your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop managing your money and start building your wealth. When people start using Monarch, you realize just how much money you spend on things that don't really matter and that you can save money on, whether it's food delivery, anything like that. I know I'm guilty of it. But now with an app like this, it can really help you budget smarter and you can save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can also track and share personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without any of the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Kane Archer. Y'all know that name, Kane Archer, right? This kid from Greenwood. I've been hearing about Kane Archer for years. I don't know Kane Archer. I don't know the kid or anything like that, but I know the name and I've heard the name, and it's been resonating for a long time in the state of Arkansas. When I first heard about him and what people said about him, they said that he was going to be a bona fide 5-star quarterback, next level elite, just like the next greatest quarterback to come out of this state. He's going to have offers to anywhere in the country he wants to go, blah, blah, blah. And that was years ago. Before he's part of the 2026 class, but that was years ago. And since then, I've just kept kind of hearing about him, Well, as time went on, and if you look at recruiting and everything, Kane Archer did not become a 5-star quarterback. He became a pretty solid quarterback. And depending on where you look at him in the rankings, he's either a 3-star or a 4-star quarterback. 24/7 Sports has him as the number 11 player in Arkansas. Now, I'm not trying to be insulting in that regard, but I am trying to tell you that that's considering all the players that Arkansas usually doesn't have coming out of the state, at least for that next level athleticism and those 4- and 5-star players like crazy. That's not saying a whole lot. So you hear about that and you're like, okay, but he's still got an offer to Arkansas, right? He's still considering Arkansas. He's still considering calling the Hogs. He's from Greenwood and all the connections there. And the answer is yes. Arkansas was interested in him. Arkansas recruited him. Arkansas offered him a scholarship and everything. But he announced officially yesterday that he has committed not to Arkansas, not to App State, not to SMU, but to UCF. That's where he committed, to go play in Orlando. Now, I did find it funny that I was like, man, he turned down all the Arkansas guys. He turned down the Razorbacks here in Arkansas. He turned down SMU because of Rhett Lash. Well, not because of it, but Rhett Lashley's down there, and he's an Arkansas guy. And then, of course, Dow Loggins over there at App State. So he turned down all of them, but decided to go to UCF. But the thing is, I want to be honest about this. I'm happy for him. I want him to be successful no matter where he goes. If a kid wants to go to UCF, great. I have no problem with him and no problem with him going and all of that. Like, I want to be clear on that. This is his decision and wish him nothing but the best of luck. But some people were acting like this was just such an indictment on Arkansas, such an indictment on Sam Pittman. Can't even keep the kids in state, blah, blah, blah. And it started making me think about all the times where keeping kids in state, how much that mattered. Coming out of high school, all the great players, like anytime that you had a 4-star player, 5-star player out of high school, it was crucial to get them to stay and to get them to come here to Arkansas. And if they didn't, you kind of felt a certain way about them. You kind of felt like there was something wrong there, or you felt betrayed in a little bit. But here's the thing. I get feeling that way at a certain time in history, maybe getting to that point. But to me, nowadays, it literally does not matter. It does not matter at all. Because of how the college landscape is today, you could see something as simple as Kane Archer goes to UCF. And then when he goes there, it ends up being a time where it's like not great for him. Maybe it's not what he thought it would be. Maybe there's some issues there, whatever it could be, whatever it could end up being. And then Arkansas makes a coaching change. Okay. Who they hire, don't know. But after all that, Kane Archer suddenly has some interest to come back home. And the new coaching staff is interested in bringing him in via the portal. And then he ends up coming back to Arkansas. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's what he wants. I don't know if he would want. I don't know any of those things. I'm just telling you that it's as simple as that when it comes to bringing players back into the fold. Players that hit the transfer portal. It's as simple as that. Oh, you want to come back? That's fine. Let's come on. Oh, new coach over here. Got some NIL. Whatever. Come on. We saw Jacoby Criswell essentially do that. It's not unprecedented. I know it's a different example, but even 1-5, rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. He went to Michigan. Was there a year. Coaching change happened up there. Coaching change happened down here. And the rest is history. My point is that you cannot freak out and you cannot lose your mind over a kid these days going to another school out of state in college football especially. Because there's so many things going on there, and there's so many things that could happen, and there's so many variables that happen. And honestly, I'm not going to hold it against anybody for something like this going on. I mean, if I had my choice, would I rather him go to Arkansas? Of course. But is anything going to change for me with him not going to Arkansas? Is any expectations I have, any wins and losses I have, and predicted any of those things, is that going to change whatsoever? No, it's not. It's not going to change. So, wish him nothing but the best of luck. But it's a little different these days with in-state kids. To me, it's all about the portal. And who knows? Even if Kane Archer came to Arkansas after one season, who knows if he'd even stay? That's how crazy it is right now. So don't freak out. Just relax. Arkansas did get an addition randomly out of nowhere on the defensive line. So let's talk about him. Stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Arkansas added a new player from the transfer portal to the defensive line. And I'll admit, when I have Twitter notifications turned on for Razorback football, anytime I see they usually just put pictures up or saying like, oh, this guy or this award or whatever. But then when they added this guy, I was like, who? What? Who is this man? Here's the deal. I don't even know if I'm going to pronounce his name right because you know how great I am with names. Defensive lineman Frank Mulipola. First off, he's defensive line. He's 6'4". He's 275 pounds. He's from Pago Pago, American Samoa. Yeah. He played at Tufana High School, and he also played at UT Permian Basin. I don't know what that is. UT Permian Basin. I'm going to look that up and see what's going on here. Oh, it's in Odessa. Makes sense. It's a public university. It's part of the University of Texas system. Huh. So UTPB. How about that? They got 7,000 students. Kind of reminds me almost of Texas A&M Commerce or whatever with Andrew Armstrong. So anyways, he was a redshirt junior this past year, and he's going to come in, and he finished third on the team with 51 tackles, 12 games that he played, including 8.5 tackles for loss and 6 sacks. He led the team in 7 quarterback hurries, 6 sacks, ranked 4th in the league. He matched a career high with 8 tackles and a sack in the season opener against Western New Mexico, and had a bunch of stats that are out there too. So I'm not saying all this because I'm making fun or anything. I'm really not. Because his freshman year, he was at Independence Community College, which we know has had some players that have come out of there too at times. But my thing is that he looks like an awesome player, looks like a lot of fun, and he looks like somebody that could at least add some depth there to the defensive line, because we even mentioned it yesterday. I believe on the podcast we mentioned it yesterday that they're going to need some help there and all of that. But listen, the team is what it is. Any of you that had any sort of dreams or any sort of expectation that maybe Arkansas is going to sign some big name and get somebody out of the portal right now, or really bring somebody in that's going to shock the world, that's not happening. Now you're just about adding pieces, adding depth, adding players that can help out in scout team and in practice and all of those things. That's what this is about moving forward. So I see this. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh man, I can't wait to see. But I'm also like not upset. It's just you got to add some pieces. You got to add some guys there that's going to help out in your depth, and you got to have some people that are, all in and using this opportunity as a golden opportunity to go out and showcase themselves and be appreciative and not look to leave as soon as they're done. Like, you need some players like that. You need some guys like that. So, who knows? Like I said, maybe I can't wait to hear from him. Hopefully we get a chance to hear from him. He seems like a big personality and a wild dude. So we'll have to wait and see. But either way, should be fun. Should be fun from that aspect. But hey, we got Razorback baseball happening tomorrow against Texas. Got a lot of stuff coming up. So appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.